Number 10. The self-healing bumper. In 1973, engineers built a bumper that could take a direct hit at 15 miles per hour and bounce back without a single mark. No dent, no cracked plastic, no repair bill. The car absorbed the impact and returned to its original shape as if the collision never happened. This was not a concept or a prototype sitting in a laboratory. It was a functional product, tested under real conditions, and it performed exactly as promised every single time. The polymer used in the bumper had a kind of structural memory. After compression, the material forced itself back into its original form. Engineers tested it repeatedly at parking lot collision speeds, and the results were consistent every time. The surface came back clean with no visible damage. Body shops saw this immediately for what it was, a direct threat to their income. A bumper that cannot be damaged is a bumper that never needs to be replaced. That removes one of the most profitable repair categories in the entire automotive service industry. Shop owners were not going to let that happen quietly. The repair lobby hired professional lobbyists and pushed a specific argument that a bumper showing no visible damage after a collision was actually dangerous, because drivers would not know they had been hit. That argument sounds reasonable on the surface. Under any real scrutiny, it falls apart. Knowing you tapped a parking post at low speed carries no meaningful safety consequence. But the argument did not need to be airtight. It just needed to create enough doubt to kill the technology before it spread. During a live public demonstration, engineers drove a car equipped with the self-healing bumper directly into a solid wall at 15 miles per hour. The bumper returned to perfect condition. The wall did not, then the technology disappeared. No recall, no public statement, no follow-up coverage anywhere, just gone. The average bumper repair today costs between $1,500 and $2,500. That expense exists not because the problem was unsolvable, but because someone who profits from the problem made sure the solution never reached you. Number 9. The indestructible bulb. In the 1970s, an engineer named Lawrence Biggs built a light bulb you could throw at a wall and it would bounce back still glowing. You could drop it from a ladder, you could use it as a makeshift hammer. It did not crack, it did not shatter, it just kept working. The product was called the Durotest bulb. Its secret was a polymer coating applied over the glass that made the outer shell flexible without reducing the light output at all. The coating absorbed impact rather than transferring it to the glass underneath. The bulb survived conditions that would destroy any standard product available at the time. Biggs demonstrated this publicly by using the bulb to drive nails into a wooden board. He held it like a hammer and struck. The nails went in and the glass did not crack. That demonstration should have made him a wealthy man. Instead, it made him a threat. The entire lighting industry is built on one simple fact: glass breaks. When a bulb shatters, a customer returns to the store and buys a replacement. That replacement cycle is not an unfortunate limitation of the technology. It is the business model. A bulb that survives indefinitely breaks that cycle permanently. One purchase, one installation, and the customer never returns. Major lighting manufacturers had no interest in replacing their existing products with something that would eliminate repeat sales. The Durotest bulb was quietly removed from consumer shelves after only a brief appearance on the market. Retailers stopped carrying it and distribution partnerships dissolved without explanation. Lawrence Biggs had built something genuinely better engineered, better tested, and proven under real conditions. None of it mattered. The industry was not looking for a better product. It was protecting a profitable cycle. You are still sweeping up broken glass from your kitchen floor because the design that could have ended that problem is sitting in patent records that no major manufacturer will ever act on. Number 8. The road that never cracks. In the 1960s, a man named Thomas McDonald mixed crushed recycled glass into standard asphalt and poured a section of road in Iowa that refused to deteriorate. Water could not penetrate it, ice could not fracture it, summer heat could not warp it. After 5 consecutive winters of freeze-thaw cycles, the surface looked like it had been laid the week before. The Department of Transportation ran tests on the material and produced projections based on real observable data from a working stretch of road that had already survived conditions designed to destroy it. Their conclusion was 50 years of service with no repair needed. For context, the average American road is repaved or repaired every 5 to 8 years. McDonald's composite would have stretched that cycle to half a century. The road maintenance sector in the United States generates around $180 billion per year. That figure is not just a byproduct of unavoidable wear. It is built into the design of the system. Roads are engineered with a maintenance cycle in mind because the maintenance cycle generates continuous revenue. McDonald's material threatened to collapse that cycle entirely. Industry lobby groups funded studies claiming the glass particles in the asphalt might reflect sunlight and create a glare hazard for drivers. Testing on the actual road showed no such effect. Drivers encountered no reflection problems whatsoever, but the studies were sufficient to raise questions, slow adoption, and prevent the technology from being used at scale. The test road in Iowa remained intact and functional for over 30 years. It was eventually removed during an unrelated construction project, not because it had deteriorated, but because a crew needed access to what was underneath it. You are still hitting the same pothole every spring because a surface that could have lasted 50 years was never allowed to spread past a single stretch of road in Iowa. Number 7. The toothbrush that doesn't touch. The Sonex toothbrush did not use bristles. It used focused ultrasound waves directed at your teeth from close range. You held the device near your mouth and the sound frequency did the work, breaking apart plaque, disrupting bacteria, and cleaning the tooth surface without the device making any physical contact. Clinical trials confirmed it outperformed standard manual brushing and matched or beat most electric models in plaque reduction. There were no heads to replace, no bristles to wear out, and no correct technique to learn. You held it near your teeth and it cleaned them. That was the whole process. A larger company acquired Sonex in the late 1990s. The moment that acquisition completed, the product began changing. The first post-acquisition version introduced bristles. The next version reduced the ultrasound output. The one after that reduced it again. By the fourth redesign, the ultrasound element had been downgraded from a core technology to a label printed on packaging. Then it disappeared from the product description entirely. This is a deliberate and recognizable pattern. You acquire a technology that threatens your revenue model, and you systematically dismantle the components that made it threatening. You keep the brand and remove the function. The electric toothbrush industry generates its real money from replacement heads. Not the handle, not the motor, the heads. They sell for between $25 and $50 every few months per person, on a cycle that continues indefinitely. That revenue disappears the moment a competing product requires no contact and no replacement parts. The Sonex technology worked. It was tested, verified, and clinically supported. It was not shut down because it failed. It was shut down because it worked too well and threatened a replacement model worth hundreds of millions of dollars per year. You are still on a brush head subscription because the better option was quietly dismantled after the acquisition papers were signed. And the further down this list you go, the worse it gets. Number 6, the glass that never fogs. In 2012, researchers at MIT developed a surface coating that permanently eliminated fog from any glass it was applied to. Not a spray that faded after a week. Not a treatment that needed reapplication. A physical modification at a microscopic scale that permanently changed how water behaved on the surface. The coating created tiny cone-shaped formations across the glass, each one roughly 1,000 times thinner than a single strand of human hair. Those formations forced incoming water molecules to spread outward into a completely transparent film rather than gathering into the small cloudy beads that produce fog. The glass could no longer fog because the surface had been structurally altered. The problem was solved at the level of physics, not chemistry. It could be applied to eyeglasses, car windshields, bathroom mirrors, or any surface where condensation was a recurring issue. The materials needed were inexpensive and the application was straightforward. Once applied, the coating did not degrade or wear off. The anti-fog product industry operates on a specific business premise. Its solutions must be temporary. Sprays lose effectiveness within days. Treated lenses degrade with repeated washing. Wipe-on formulas last a few applications at best. Every product in that category is built to fail on a short timeline so the customer has to keep purchasing. A permanent coating collapses that model. It converts every repeat customer into a one-time customer, and a market built on replacement purchases cannot survive on one-time sales. After the MIT research was published, the technology went quiet. No major eyewear brand or automotive manufacturer announced a product based on it. No consumer version reached shelves. The relevant patents were absorbed into corporate legal structures specifically designed to prevent outside parties from manufacturing or licensing the technology. You are still wiping condensation off your glasses every winter because a permanent fix was locked away the moment someone with the right resources realized how much money it would cost them. Number 5, the pipe that cleansed itself. In 1995, Dr. Sarah Chen engineered a coating for the interior of pipes so smooth that nothing could adhere to it. Not grease, not hair, not sediment, not construction adhesive. She called it HydroSlick. The coating worked by maintaining a microscopic layer of water between the pipe surface and any substance passing through it. That invisible barrier prevented materials from ever making direct contact with the pipe wall. To test it, her team poured maple syrup, motor oil, wet cement, and children's slime through coated pipe sections. Every substance passed through completely and left nothing behind. Emergency drain calls, clog repairs, and routine clearing jobs represent a large share of annual plumbing revenue. That work exists because pipes accumulate buildup over time. If pipes no longer clogged, that entire category of work would stop generating calls. The plumbing industry understood the implications immediately. Patent buyout offers came in quickly. The terms were the same every time. Full acquisition of the patent with a contractual requirement that the technology would never be manufactured or licensed to anyone. The offers were not proposals to bring the product to market. They were offers to ensure it never arrived. Dr. Chen refused everyone. After that, the barriers appeared systematically. Her research funding was cut without explanation. Journals that had previously published her work began rejecting new submissions. Every manufacturer she approached reported production complications that made working together impossible. HydroSlick never reached a single hardware store shelf, not because it failed in testing, and not because because the manufacturing was too difficult. The testing had already proven it worked on every substance her team could think of. The barrier was not science. It was money and the people who controlled it. Because the people with the most to lose from its success had enough influence to make sure it disappeared. You are still calling an emergency plumber at 2 in the morning for a blocked drain that this coating could have permanently prevented. Number 4. The ink that pulls itself from air. In 1991, a company called Infinity Ink developed a printer cartridge that generated its own ink by extracting moisture directly from the air. The cartridge contained crystallized dye and a hygroscopic compound that absorbed atmospheric water molecules. It combined those molecules with the dye to produce usable ink whenever the printer needed it. A single cartridge was built to last more than 20 years. Printer manufacturers do not make their real profit selling printers. A home printer often sells at or near cost. The money is in the ink. Printer ink is priced at roughly $2,700 per gallon. That price has nothing to do with what the ink costs to produce. It is entirely the result of a business model built around a consumable that runs out on a schedule and cannot be substituted. A self-replenishing cartridge that lasts 2 decades ends that model instantly. When Infinity Ink filed for a patent, every major printer manufacturer came at them with legal challenges at the same time. They argued the technology would degrade print quality and damage hardware. Those claims were cover. That kind of legal pressure is cheap for a billion-dollar corporation to apply and catastrophic for a startup to absorb. Filing a patent opposition takes a law firm an afternoon. Defending one burns through capital at a rate a small company cannot sustain. Every week of litigation was another week Infinity Ink was not building or selling anything. Documents that leaked years later showed that several of those same manufacturers had already developed similar self-replenishing systems internally. They had locked those systems away because releasing them would have eliminated the consumable revenue that funded everything else. Infinity Ink spent 2 years fighting legal costs it could not sustain. The company went bankrupt in 1993. The cartridge never appeared on a single retail shelf. You are still spending more per ounce on printer ink than you would on liquid gold. Not because this problem was unsolvable, but because it had already been solved and then deliberately buried. Number 3. The smell killer that never dies. Someone invented a metal disc the size of a quarter that permanently eliminated odors from any enclosed space. No batteries, no chemicals, no refills, no expiration. You placed it in a car, a closet, or a refrigerator and the smell was gone. Not masked with a competing fragrance, not temporarily suppressed. Destroyed at a molecular level, and it stayed gone. The disc was made from a specialized metal alloy that catalyzed the breakdown of odor-causing compounds on contact with air. The alloy was not consumed in the reaction, which meant it never wore out. The disc could theoretically function for the entire lifespan of whatever space it was placed in. There was no filter to clean, no reservoir to top up, and no mechanism that could wear out, because there was no mechanism at all. Just passive metal sitting in place, doing its job indefinitely. The air freshener industry is built on temporary solutions. Spray cans empty, plug-in units lose their scent within weeks, hanging fresheners fade within days. Every product in that category stops working on purpose, because a product that stops working is a product that gets replaced. That replacement cycle is not a flaw in the design. It is the point. A disc that works permanently converts that recurring purchase into a single transaction. The customer buys once and leaves the market forever. The industry cannot sustain itself on that model. The major fragrance companies made buyout offers with a single non-negotiable condition. The technology could not be commercialized. When the inventor refused, regulatory approval stalled without explanation. Retailers declined to stock the product. Distribution channels quietly closed and the disc disappeared. You are still replacing your car's air freshener every few weeks and restocking your bathroom plug-in every month because an industry that profits from temporary solutions had the resources to eliminate the permanent one. Number 2. The hearing aid you install once. In 1997, researchers developed a hearing aid the size of a grain of rice that could be implanted into the ear canal and function for decades without any maintenance. No batteries to swap, no settings to adjust, no cleaning routine. The device drew power directly from the natural warmth of the human body it was placed inside. A standard hearing aid today costs between $1,000 and $4,000 and needs to be replaced every 3 to 5 years. That replacement timeline is not a technical limitation. It is a business decision. The hearing aid industry is structured around repeat customers, and repeat customers require products that eventually stop working. A device that powers itself from body heat and functions indefinitely is not compatible with that structure. The major manufacturers began acquiring patents connected to the implantable technology shortly after the research became public. Not to develop the device, to prevent anyone else from developing it. Each acquired patent was folded into a portfolio designed to block independent manufacturers from building anything based on that design. Publicly, the manufacturers raised concerns about surgical risks and the long-term psychological effects of permanent implants. Those arguments were carefully worded to sound credible, while the real work was happening in legal departments, not medical research labs. The original research team attempted to bring the device to market independently. They were blocked at every regulatory filing and outspent in every legal dispute until the effort collapsed. Millions of people who need hearing assistance are still spending thousands of dollars every few years on devices that require constant replacement. The solution that could have changed that is sitting in a patent vault. That vault is not a research archive. It is a cage built to protect market share. It is not being developed developed, and it is not being improved. It is being held there specifically to ensure it never becomes available. Number 1. The carburetor that broke physics. Tom Ogle was 24 years old, worked as a lawnmower mechanic in El Paso, Texas, and had no engineering degree of any kind. In 1977, he drove a 4,600-pound Ford Galaxy more than 100 miles on a single gallon of gasoline. Not in a laboratory, not in a controlled facility. On public roads with reporters following in separate cars for the entire distance, he had not planned any of this. He discovered the principle accidentally while repairing a lawnmower. He punctured the fuel line and noticed the engine continued running on vapor alone. That observation led him to build a system that vaporized gasoline before it entered the combustion chamber. Standard liquid fuel combustion wastes a significant portion of the energy in the fuel through heat loss and unburned vapor. His system captured that vapor and delivered it directly into the engine, cutting out the waste at the source. He completed a 200-mile round trip between El Paso and Deeming, New Mexico on 2 gallons of gasoline. Before and after the drive, journalists inspected the vehicle. They looked for hidden fuel tanks, secondary reservoirs, and any modification that could produce a false reading. They found nothing. The efficiency was real, it was witnessed, and it could be repeated. Oil companies came to Ogle with offers in the millions. He knew what those offers represented. They were not development investments, they were burial contracts. He refused them all. He intended to manufacture the system himself and take it directly to the public. In 1981, Tom Ogle was found dead in his apartment. The official cause of death was listed as alcohol poisoning combined with a Demerol overdose. People close to him stated he did not drink and had no documented history of drug use. His invention disappeared the same week he did. The patents were buried in legal filings too dense and interlocked to untangle. This is where the list ends. Not with a shelved product, not with a buried patent, with a body. You are still paying $4 per gallon because a man who solved the problem was removed from the equation along with everything he built.